I think everybody's here that's going to be here tonight. First of all, let's pray. Lord, thank you so much for a good day. We sure appreciate it. We thank you for a good past month and all the things we've learned, Lord, and we just pray now that you'd bless our evening, give us wisdom, give us direction, and help us to learn and be good stewards of all that you've given us, Lord. We thank you and appreciate it. In Jesus' name, amen. Okay. We had some great questions last month. Any have any questions from last month? Any questions that we could chat about as kind of a group? Just questions about the lesson, things that you didn't like, things you thought were dumb, things you thought were amazing, things that, anything. Any questions?
First of all, none of it was done.
The what? Oh.
I thought you said none of it was done.
She has bad ears.
Oh.
No, it was very uplifting, Mark. I thought it was very interactive. Everybody was involved. I thought it was a really good first meeting for not having them before.
And what about the paper stuff itself?
It forced you to think outside the box a little bit about what you normally do.
Yep.
So.
I was really excited once I got my core value. I didn't write my vision statement. I had ChatGPT do it. I did a phenomenal job.
Is that legal?
You got to use resources around you. I mean, I think.
I mean, it's like, well, I looked me up. I was like, this is
I
absolutely.
think you know what your core values are, right? And you choose 3. That's what I did. Chose 3, put them in ChatGPT, and it wrote up. Yeah.
If you're not using ChatGPT,
That's right. That's right. I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that, so really when you have your vision statement, you want it to wake you up in the morning, right? Like that's kind of the goal. Like if your vision statement doesn't excite you, it's probably not a vision statement, right? Because certain things excite you, right? And certain things don't. So if your vision statement doesn't excite you, it's probably not a vision statement. And I wrote something here. It should inspire you to the point of bringing you almost to tears. You're like, if my life looked like that, I would be amazed. I would love that, right? Like it should inspire you because it has to stir something internally in you. If it doesn't, you're probably have a what I think I should do statement, not a vision statement. Because so you have this vision like, I think I should be this, but it doesn't really inspire me. But if it inspires you, it's a vision. It's like, yes, that's my life. That doesn't matter what it is. It could be literally, like I said before, a cabin in the woods with a stream running by it. If that's your vision statement, you're like, yes, I want to be there, right? It excites you. That's what a vision statement really is. It really is something that's been given to you from early on. So it can be in all those areas of life. Career, business. That would excite me to sell knives, right? Like that's the type of thing it could be. But if it doesn't inspire you, a vision statement, it is a what I think I should do statement or what I think is the right answer statement. It should inspire you. So I'm actually going to give you guys some books. These are just fun. I just kind of like give your own personal journal for this. Mine says things I only tell my chief of staff. Anyway, what I would like for you to do with these is put in probably the front page. When you kind of get that vision statement the way you want it, write that in that front page and like just read it all the time. Like constantly read it because it's designed to be something remembered. As with anything, your mind is a muscle. If you haven't worked it out a lot for specific purposes or a specific way, it's going to feel difficult, right? So, same with your vision statement. When you write this vision statement in a year, you might look back on it and go, wow, nice try, right? Like you might get that feeling, but the benefit is you want yourself. What's it happening?
Nothing. It's just got so much of the ceiling in.
That's okay. I don't want to see my legs.
It's just,
So in a year, cut. In a year, you're going to look back at this vision statement and you're going to realize if you're being intentional about it, you're going to go, hey, that was a fun try, right? But that's the whole point of it. It's a marking point. So it should be somewhat changed. Like this is not going to change, like this is not going to be the end all for your life. So write it down and say it. And then later on we're kind of like, you know what? I'm not really that passionate about that piece. Or like, I don't love that anymore. Okay, feel free to write a new vision statement. Like it should be sort of a living document as you go through, but it should excite you. It really should. Who's out there? Does anybody, so let me see, I'm going to get these books out. So this is really going to be used for vision statement and then maybe serious, like stuff that you really want to remember. Don't just like use it for journaling necessarily. And then later on when we get to the innovative part, we're really going to give you keys how to take steps into the right direction. We're going to give you really good keys for that. And so then your who does what by when's kind of at like action notes will be taken in. All right. For directions that did the paper sources. Right. That if things you almost I would because I think I fight that with a stick early on. In statement. Ed? So my chief, if you have same the best you're going to about that in statement. It really means for journeys how and so it will be a little more. And really, if I is going to openly discuss your visions necessarily, maybe in a later group, if we go up to another level, we might be a little more proactive, like working together, if that's the type of thing you want to do. Does anyone want to share their vision statement at all, or vision statements they have? Does anybody have any interest in doing that? Or just something that you want to share specifically about the previous lesson? Something that really, when you're writing, you're like, this stood out to me. Or maybe your core values. Maybe you want to share your core values. Anybody want to share anything? You don't have to, just ask me. They're like, nope. Okay. All right. Don't tempt me with a good time. Okay. Let me see if I have this in the right order. I know I'm not really using that. I'm just using the stand. Core values. Can anybody guess what one of my core values are?
Let's see, more.
Okay. Huh? No. Interesting. I did not have those on there. I didn't have any of those on there. Mm-mm. But this is no.
You are not what I got.
Okay, one of my core no.
Go ahead.
So I dissected, like you guys, I dissected 3 people that I really like to get along with and 3 people that I don't enjoy that much. And I put their values down. And loyalty did come up, or friendship came up, or a few of those types of things came up, right? But really, the overall writer of all those people, there was a combination that really highlighted itself. So being intentional is a core value with me. Being intentional about what I do. If I say something, I'm usually going to be intentional. If I'm lazy, I'm also being intentional, right? Like if I'm sitting there not doing anything, I'm probably being intentional. So being intentional what I do, stuff doesn't just happen to me, right? So I'm very intentional. That's something that I'm going to always be. The second one is thinking long term is a core value for me. So long-term thinking is a core value. What?
Oil for that mouse.
Oh, mouth. Oh. Oh, I get too distracted easy. This should be a core value. Intentional, long-term thinking, always learning, take action, and love people are my 5 core values. Intentional, long-term thinking, always learning, take action, and love people. Some of these I can do a little better on, but a lot of them I do quite intentionally. Does that seem out of place
No.
for anybody?
Well, now you say it.
No,
Okay.
that those are, I think, a lot more descriptive of you individually than maybe just a good core value, which is, I think, what we all kind of threw out there.
Yeah.
I think that you obviously still appreciate.
Yep. Does anybody else want to share their core values? Any interest? No worries if not.
I actually added one because I thought of it after the fact.
Yeah.
Honesty is very important to me. Work ethic, we're very like, when I do things, I do, like, I give all of me, which is actually sort of put a little inhibitor in my life a little bit because I give so much in my work day, which has been before in any work that I've had. And then I'm so tired when I get home and I don't have always 100% to give to my family, so it kind of affects me in a negative light. in that respect.
Sure.
But work ethic is a big thing for me. Kindness, like nice people. Generosity. My family, I grew up around that so much. My family always had extra people at the dinner table. If somebody needed a place to stay, even complete strangers sometimes. Our house was always open to people like that. Relationship. People that value relationship and input relationship and work on those things. And then discipline was the one that I added.
Okay. And do the people generally that you kind of thought through had a lot of those similar ones?
No, I actually had a really hard time, and probably a lot of it was because I didn't have discipline when I was doing this. So I kind of just, I'll just think throughout my day, and then I'm at work, so I'm not thinking about these things at work.
Yeah.
I'm home and I'm being with my family, so I'm not thinking. So I forgot to get alone.
Yeah. Yeah. And the one, this is fine. I mean, it's fine. You get, like, again, we talked about last time, you get what you do it, right? But the reality is, the reason I think that it is important, and you can always, again, this is giving you keys how to do this stuff to be kind of good in your life. The one reason there is a value add to that is because when you admire something, and then you dissect it, and then you go, am I like that? You go, not fully. Or if you can have somebody help you admire that, then what you can kind of go, okay, I'm actually like that. Now you may actually be those things, and I think you're probably right on those. But sometimes what you'll find is you'll find another hidden nugget that you didn't realize that's actually more important to you.
Right.
And you're like, oh, I didn't realize, oh, you're right. I do it here. I do it here. I do it here. I do it here. And that's kind of a mirror to you because you mirror to people who you are. And that you see yourself in people. When you don't like something or when you like something, you see yourself often. And so it's actually a way to kind of dissect you. Anybody else have any interest? Okay.
Damon.
So my core values were servant heart, positive, humility, loyalty, and pusher.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I'm not going to tell anybody else. Anybody else volunteer, fine, or we'll move on. Okay. Did anybody else want to share any of their visions? There are 6 visions: physical, business, career, spiritual, family, financial, or social. Anybody want to share those at all? As like something that you just loved? Okay. Moving on. I was kidding.
My business one,
Okay.
doing work that is enjoyable with good people and for a great company. Nailed it.
Nice.
Put that on there.
Nice. I love it. After I wrote my personal vision statement, I went and I sat on it for probably a week or something. Like, you know what? I think I'll have to change it all because a lot of the stuff was really good and inspired me. But then I was like, oh, I left a ton out. Like I could really write that a lot differently. So I'll have to rewrite my own. But it really kind of after I sat on it for a few days, I was like, oh, this has changed a lot about me. But anyway. Okay. Did any of you this just didn't make sense? No?
I think the hardest thing for me is that I've never actually set a goal necessarily for myself. I mean, I have goals within my days or my weeks, or I have short-term goals.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But I've never actually looked into the future, where do I want to see myself? I mean,
Yep.
These things set into place for far down the road, but I mean, those are cliche things that everybody does. It doesn't necessarily put anything in front of me that I need to work toward. So it's hard for me to, I don't actually know what I want, I guess, necessarily.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of these things, it was
if you don't know what you want, you get what somebody gives you. Right? That's the sad reality. If you don't know what you want, you take what people give you and you get what people give you. And there's more and you're unhappy because you didn't get the stuff you at one point dreamed, because you remember when you're young, you dreamed. When you're a young adult, you dreamed. When you're a young child, you dreamed. And you yourself know you've not really got it. You really didn't get there. You always will feel that, even though you feel like I've never achieved something, because God actually created you for something. God actually created you to achieve something, to do something with a very specific talent to you. And when you get towards the end of your life and you feel depressed and sad and unsatisfied and unfulfilled, is because you didn't live in that, right? So the Lord has created you for a purpose. He has a plan for you. I know the plans I have, plans to prosper you, plans, all these things. But if we don't take the time to talk to Him about it and research it and look it through, we're gonna I guess I existed somewhere in the middle of Michigan for most of my life. You're never going to be famous. I don't care. The most famous person is going to be completely unremembered. And the point isn't to be famous. The point is to really fulfill the calling God put on our lives. So we'll move on from this. Lesson 2, we're still kind of in the visionary stage. Next month, we'll go into the innovative. How do we become innovative in our lives? How do we innovate? How do we see things that are not there? How do we overcome certain things in our lives? But today we'll finish the vision part of this. This lesson, I would strongly encourage you, if you haven't finished the lesson from last week, some of this is not going to make as much sense to you. So if you haven't, take the time to really be intentional with that before you dive into this one. This one here, the precursor to this one is you need to be brutally honest about you. Don't hide in the shadows of who you are. You have to be very brutally honest. Let's take an example when it comes to, we're going to deal with SWOT in a minute, strengths, weaknesses, opportunity. Think about this. When you walk in a room, okay, let's say I walk in a room. I'll use myself as an example. When I walk in a room, okay, there is something I do, maybe 2 things, maybe 3 things, that everyone knows and thinks, that's Mark. Okay? When I walk into a room, I do something that everyone thinks, oh, that's Mark. Or maybe let's pick other people. I'm just saying there's a general sense and an aura you place on people. Let's take other people. Let's take Who can we?
Let's make this easy, Mark.
Yeah. No. Yeah. It has to be a little more. But, okay, let's pick somebody that is not in our group. Just give us a little bit of a moment here. They walk in, and you know that maybe they're going to complain. Or they walk in, and you know, let's say somebody walks in, and everybody thinks the same thing about that person. It happens all the time. There's a reason for it. The reason for it is every single person of us has that, right? Every single person has that. When that person walks in the room, everyone thinks about generally one thing. Almost always. Some people are that gray man we were talking about earlier. They kind of just disappear, right? What's this one? Why should I never be put on speakerphone?
Is that what you really think when I watch it?
Absolutely. Right? But here's the thing. When you walk in a room, everybody sees this. I'm going to keep repeating myself. My wife thinks I go crazy when I do that. No, I'm just kidding.
It takes 7 times for you to remember.
I do the same thing. So you have things that about you that when you walk in a room, everyone thinks those things about you. That is the hidden weaknesses of yourself. Those are things that we can't observe ourselves, right? There's things we don't observe about ourselves. We're not self-observant. If you can fix that one thing, you have to get very brutally honest with you, and you have to get people to help you find those things. Then what happens is when you change that thing, right, it's very obvious to people, and they're going, oh, they're serious about changing their life. That one thing will give you a huge advantage. But you all have it. We could think of countless people that walk into a room and immediately go, yeah, it's just the way they are. And you know everyone else thought the exact same thing. 100%. We all have those. It's not a lie. We all have them. Some may be a little more subtle. Some may be really pronounced, but we all have them. Nothing wrong with that. But what happens is you have to be brutally honest with it and assess yourself. So, number one, where am I currently towards this journey in what I call success? Success can be in a lot of things. Where are you currently at in this? Are you in wishful thinking phase? Are you planning, preparing? Have you taken first steps? Are you continuing? Are you going backwards? Are you stuck? Are you lost or unsure? Halfway? You're to the finish line? Describe it. Where are you at in this journey towards this? And you can be at any point. If your vision came up and you're like, actually, 3/4 of this stuff I already have and I'm happy. I'm happy. There's a couple things. You might say that you're in continuation or you're halfway maybe. So be very honest about that. Next one, very honest. If I don't change anything, where do I see myself in a few years? If I do not change anything, where do I see myself in a few years? Exactly where you are? Worse off than you are? Better than you are? If you don't change anything. And this can be in all relations. It can be in all 6 of those categories, and you can probably add more categories to it. If I don't change anything, where do I see myself in a few years? Okay? You gotta be really honest with yourself. What limiting belief can I let go of? Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, what exactly do you mean by anything? So, like, your plan for right now, can you change anything, or like?
So let's say you're living your life exactly as you are now. Not your plan. You're just living life intentionally or unintentionally. And you may be living intentionally. I'm not making the precursor that no one's living intentionally, right? So you may be very intentionally be on a very path track. So if you look at yourself in a year, you say, okay, in a year, I'm going to be so-and-so and so-and-so if I keep heading in the direction I am. And that may be an upward direction, right? Or it could be a downward direction, or it could be a flat direction. So it can be any of the answer isn't like have to be bad, right? Like I may be putting that spin on it. Maybe I shouldn't be exactly doing that. But the honest answer is if I keep doing exactly what I'm doing now in a year from now, so besides taking your vision in place, where will I be? So you just want to honestly assess myself, because do I actually have to make changes? Like, do I really want to be here in a year from now? Do I really want to be doing this in a year from now? 2 years from now, 3 years from now, several years. What limiting belief can I let go of? What belief do I have that probably need to go? what attitude do I need to adopt? What attitude do I need to adopt? And then I'll put this link in WhatsApp so you can click on the link. And it basically is, there's all different forms. SWOT analysis is a very common thing. This is through a company called Asana. SWOT analysis. SWOT?
No, the company.
Asana. They're basically like a business resource. But there's so many. If you like to do search, like how to run a SWOT analysis or a personal SWOT analysis, you can do it. This is a little more business related. But it's basically your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So on this website, you can do personal ones, and there's other sites that do better personal ones, and ones that do better business ones, but they really help you optimize a thing, right? So it's to really look at yourself or your business, or you can even use it in micro details. Let's say you're trying a new venture or a new business idea or a new marketing plan or anything like that. You can run a SWOT analysis on it, and you can see, is this going to be good? What challenges do we have to do? So you can run a SWOT analysis on almost anything. Like if you're starting something new, you can run it on it. So strengths, this is using the word we because of the company, but what do I do well? What is something I do well? And I'll put this link in here, but you can feel free to search around and really understand SWOT and maybe like some more personal side of that. What is unique about our organization? In this case, what is unique about me? What do I do well? What is unique about me? What unique things do I have? Those are your strengths. They're things that you don't see in other people a lot. They're very specifically. You have examples of that. Weaknesses. What could be improved? What could I improve? What can I do to improve my performance? And there's definitely areas like, this is where I'm talking about the weaknesses. We can see weaknesses in people really easily. It's kind of easy to pick them out sometimes. And you can really start seeing them. I would advise you, if you can and you're willing to do it, and I think you should be able to do that, is ask people to help you find your weaknesses. And I go back to a verse biblically, Proverbs 28:13 says, a man that hideth his sin will be destroyed, I think, but he that exposeth it will prosper. So you can use that in sin, or you can say, like expose your weaknesses or shortcomings, right? So if you take and bring them to the light and you go, I have a weakness or a shortcoming here, or I'm not very good at this, and you expose it, you're going to prosper. Because the one key principle is, if you take a weakness and you expose it, now you can fix it. But if you keep hiding it and you're not good at it and you're not good at it and you don't want anybody to see that weakness in you, you're not going to fix it.
It's also called self-reflection.
Yes.
I use this question.
Or self-awareness. Some people aren't very self-aware.
I ask every candidate when I interview them for
Yes. Yep.
what are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? What's something that you can work on or you're not?
Yep. Yep. So honestly reflecting, but what happens is when you expose that weakness, it allows you to grow. It allows you to grow. If you don't, you're probably never going to allow that thing to hit sunlight. It can never get fixed. The rain can't hit it. Nothing can hit it. And you keep protecting it. And you keep protecting, you start defending it, and it becomes a priority, and pretty soon your success will never come. But if you go, I have a weakness here. This is just not working. I really need someone to help me here. Now what happens is, you automatically, that probably gained you 90% of your growth. Immediately. It probably immediately helped you change that area of your life. So, and another 10% is just putting one tweak in it. Very simple. So really, I think this is key. I think most of your success, like I said, in life in general, most of your success can come from exposing your weaknesses. Because if you can expose a weakness, fix it quite easily, honestly, most of the time we just don't want to deal with it. All of a sudden, it changes your perspective. You're not really afraid of something, or you're not really open. So all of a sudden, everybody else goes, oh my gosh, did you change? Like his whole demeanor has changed. Like the way he approaches life has changed. It becomes really obvious really quick to people. And there's like, this dude's changed or whatever, right? So strengths, but weaknesses are big. Make sure you're very honest with your weakness. Get the people to do this too. Help you find this. I seen a thing back a while ago. I was talking with Catherine today. Back when I first started in business, we did this a little bit. We sat in a room and we mentioned things in the business growth of that, what people aren't good at. We called them out on it. We said, you're not good at that. Or you're really annoying when you do that. We called it out on it, right? Well, I was reading a book and it was this, like a halfway house or something. I'm trying to remember. I've been trying to find it.
And that was my annoying thing. I sometimes don't read the room.
You don't read the room. That's right. Yes. So there was this example of these halfway house, and these people were in there, and they were trying to figure out how to like fix themselves, basically. And so I don't know if the leader had the responsibility or one of the people had the responsibility. Is they took a chair and they sat it in the middle, and they all went around and just started telling this person things they just couldn't stand about him. And initially it was extremely painful, right? And after a few days, they
He never came back.
So what happened is the next time, and they rotated every time a different person would do it. I don't know if they did it in one setting or they did it every time. What happened was they would go home angry, livid at some of the stuff people said about them, and especially if they were close to somebody or something happened, they were just livid. They'd come back after a few days and they go, you know what, you're right, I do that. I didn't even realize that. And so they started fixing themselves. No. I would love to, but no.
I was already like picturing myself sitting in the middle of the room like crying.
Okay. What happened was, this is a true story. What happened was, after they did that, they got so good at wanting to see where their faults were so they could improve. And if they would sit in the middle later on, because they were getting really good, they started businesses together. I think they did all kinds of stuff together. They would sit in the middle of the room and people were like, you know, I really like you. You don't really have much to say. They would get offended now because people were not being honest with them about where they could grow. You don't even love me if you don't show me my shortcomings, right? So they were very obvious to that. They're saying, if you actually cared about me, you would point out the things I'm failing at because you want to see me successful, right? We do not think about that in our society. We don't like that in our society. We don't want to be told where we're coming short, right? I don't like it still. Nobody does, right? Exactly right. And it's 100% true, and it's to an extreme, right? Most of us do like to hear some feedback or like, oh, yeah, that hurt, but I kind of like to see it. How do we get to that point where we can do that without the arrogance factor in our lives? It is a key. Please understand your weaknesses. Learn from them. If people tell you something about yourself that you think, I don't care if they're arrogant or whatever, make sure you listen and take the amount of truth that it comes. It's not always going to feel good. You may not love hanging out with them because of that, but the reality is understand that research in life. So be very, very intentional about understanding your weaknesses. And you can fix them quite easily most of the time. Most of the time, they're actually really easy to fix. We just don't really want to dive into it. But once we do, it's like, oh, that was easy. I can actually fix that. Opportunities. There are opportunities that you have that are unique to you and you alone. A lot of people have a lot of opportunities that are unique to you and you alone. And here's where the uniqueness comes. The opportunities come in a lot of ways. Talent. A lot of you have a talent that no one else has. A lot of you have knowledge that no one else has about very specific things. Those are opportunities. A lot of you, when it comes to money or finance or other things, have other opportunities. Some of you might have cash in the bank. Some of you might have a knowledge set that somebody would pay for. Some of you might have a house that's paid off, and you could use it as capital towards investing in something. Everyone has unique opportunities in their lives. They're very unique. So dive into what makes you unique. What opportunities do you immediately have at your disposal? Do you know someone that would happily invest in you? Do you know a certain friend? Do you know a certain clientele? Do you know someone? Do you know something? If you ask them, I was listening to somebody else that I think it was Steve Jobs originally. I'll double check that. But he wanted to get into like doing these transistors for radio stuff. And so he wrote the head of Dell, and he's like, hey, I would love to have some transistors. I'm trying to build this little transistor. And the dude sent him transistors and then later gave him a job working on the transistor assembly line, right? I think it was Steve Jobs. I'll double check that. And he goes, what happens is, and the other guy, and he said, most people never ask me. You think they might get asked all the time, but they actually don't. And he goes, when people ask me for stuff, I usually find a way to do something for them. And he goes, most people, you'll realize, do the same thing. But a lot of times they don't get asked. Or we just think, oh, they would never even respond to me. Maybe. Did you ask, right? So you have a lot of opportunities around you, if you're serious about it, that somebody else doesn't have. You have opportunities that Chris doesn't have, right? We all have opportunities. So,
Somebody have
oh, snap. Okay, so opportunities. Do not neglect seeing the opportunities. And this is where I had a brief conversation earlier, and we're going to use this later on when we get to opportunity. On the top we have the vision, which is visionary. That's what we're working on now these 2 days, really understanding our vision and kind of your innovative. We're really going to give through. If you guys have read one of the previous books we posted, which was Start with a Vision, there was a 6-step process in Start with a Vision. This is the previous book. Did I not recommend it in there? Start with a Vision? I think I did. Okay. Whether you read it or not, that's your thing. In there is a 6-step process, which we're going to clean up a little bit for this, but it will go into the next phase, which is innovative, and it will give you innovative ways to deal with anything in your life. I think it is a game-changing way how to solve problems in your life. You can do it in relationships, you can do it in business, you can do it in micro details. You could literally do it to, I don't like how my mailbox is. I mean, literally, it can be used. It's a very innovative way to help you think very intentionally about anything you want to think about. So it'll be a pretty big key. So that's where innovation comes in. Strategic, we're going to get about strategy. Impactful, that'll be another thing. Opportunity driven, we'll get into opportunity, but I'll just mention it here. What opportunities do you have? A lot of times we're talking, you just don't see them. So if I asked you today, how many red cars did you see? How many, we kind of went through this earlier, but how many red cars did you see today? Anybody know how many red cars they see? That's probably true, but how many? Yeah. But if you don't, one to be sure, okay. But what if I told you I'll give you $100 for every red car you see today?
that I'm watching.
And how many would you see?
All of them.
Yes. 800. I use this example because we were just kind of chatting before. I drove from Remax and Big Rapids, just driving the road. I was like, I'm gonna see how many red cars I see. I drove from Remax to the 19-mile road gas station and I seen 23 cars that were red. And we're talking a short distance, right? The difference is when you don't know what you're looking for, you'll never see it. You will never see it. So start looking at the opportunities around you. You actually have a lot more opportunities than you think. Sometimes they're difficult. Sometimes you don't want to see them. You actually have a lot of opportunities. There really isn't. It really starts to exercise your mind and change. You go, oh, I've got all these opportunities I could do. You might be able to, advise somebody or give them something else, and mind-blowing opportunities. Go ahead.
Like today at the car wash, this lady came in, and then I don't even know if somebody asked her what she did or what, and she has a media company, and she's like, if you ever need a commercial or whatever, yeah. Well, then this other customer was in there, and he's like, hey, my son's a drone pilot. Do you need a drone pilot? She's like, actually, I do need a drone pilot. And then, like, 3 people are in the office exchanging information.
Like in a split second.
Just like that, but anyway, it's everywhere.
It's everywhere.
Conversation when I had to get her card,
Okay.
and it said Eagle Eye on it. I said, you're the drone lady.
So we've identified an issue with Chris. No, I'm just kidding. I know, it's totally right.
She's very elderly.
Oh, that's so funny. But the reality is you have unique opportunities to you. Unique opportunities to you. It's not something no one else has. You have opportunity. I'll tell you one thing, history is a unique opportunity. Your history is a very unique opportunity. The things that happened to you in your past give you opportunity to sow into people's lives much more than you realize. They've actually given you a specific skill set from that. Threats. This might be a little bit more difficult to come over across. Threats might be a little difficult. It's a little different than a weakness. It might be external threats like, oh man, you know, I'm living in a rented house and my rent might go up. Or there are things that are completely outside of your control. Let me just see if they describe threats down here a little bit better. I think maybe do a better idea than I did. Lastly, let's address threats. These are external conditions that could negatively impact you, your life, your objectives, or your vision. Examples this is a business again, so it doesn't really apply, but increased competition, potential economic downturn, those types of things. But economic downturn or something could be a potential threat. So towards your vision, what could your threats be? They could be a personal matter. They could be they're external things that you don't have control over are threats. Weaknesses are something that's about you. These are internal factors. Weaknesses are internal factors. Threats are external factors. So weaknesses you can kind of control. External factors are something that's not, you can't do. Okay. Any questions on that? That would be helpful. Just any questions that some clarity you want on it or anything else? Understand that okay? Look into the things you don't want to look at. Face reality. Face the reality of who you are, who you've been, who you are, who you've been. Assess yourself. Be fiercely honest. Let nothing hide. This will hurt. If it doesn't hurt, you're probably not being honest. Especially the weakness side. But there should be some joyful side. There should be the side of, dude, my strengths, I didn't realize that my opportunities are going to really bring to light. So anything hurts. Like we talk about working out. Part of my goal was actually to work out 4 days a week for 20 minutes after a year. And to my bravo, no, I can't really explain. I've been working out for about 5 days a week for about 40 minutes for the last 2 weeks. So I've been already heading in that direction, right? This is kind of part of my thing of taking action. I just kind of take action when it happens, just take it, right? Some things I'll lag on. There's no question. I'm not perfect on that, but it is generally taking action on it. But like doing these things, right? It's a muscle. My arms are sore today, right? It's going to hurt. You're going to I can't hardly pick that up. Part of that's I really don't want to pick that up. I really don't want to think about that. I really don't want to think about my weakness right there. I really don't want to. Go ahead and pick it up. It'll be fine, right? It hurts because it exposes who we are, but I tell you, there is nothing better than to really be intentional about those things because it is the key to changing your life and not living a perpetual what someone gives you, what someone feeds down your tube. You don't do it. Be fiercely honest. Next month we'll dive into the tools which really go into our innovation. And so that'll be a much more lighthearted, I should say, because now we're going to go, hey, here's some ways you can take action. Here's how you do it for every single time, and it'll really give you keys how to move forward and start putting the stuff that you have now in your vision and that you've assessed. You can take all that stuff, and we're going to give you the keys and really kind of walk through those keys intentionally about how to go next. So, and then we'll kind of go through the acronym of the vision. How Successful People Think by John Maxwell would be a recommended book. John Maxwell is a great author, both Christian and he's a great business and leadership. That's at the bottom of your page, by the way. It's written on the bottom of your page. Who? Oh, yes. By John Maxwell. I have not read that book. I've heard a lot of good things about it, so I'm going to read that one. The other one, The Gap in the Game by Dan Sullivan and Benjamin Hardy. It is a must read, whether it's business or success or life or anything. in my opinion, it is a must-read book. It is, I have not heard the key to life and depression and thought process and trauma and background and failures and successes like I have that book. I mean, it is a must read. I think that it is, I just finished it and I was just like, this is so good. It's so good. So it deals with even going back and changing your past. It's like a time machine. If you think about it, you can actually go back and change your past. And it may seem very, very counterintuitive, but reading it, it's, I don't know, it just is such a key. So, anybody have any other questions? Next meeting 2, I'm actually, something we've been wanting to do for a very long time, since 2014. Ruby and I went on a cruise in 2014, and we always wanted to take the kids back to it. Always wanted to do it. And Seth is now about 19 and going to get married next year, so we're like, this is our only chance to do it. So we'll be gone from January 12th through the 25th.
So the 11th would actually be a month from today.
Oh, is it the second Thursday? Oh,
Could be already full.
that is true. I didn't think about that. I was just thinking, for some reason I was thinking it was going to fall into when we were gone. Oh, okay, so then I guess we'll just leave it the same for now. That's fine. An evening won't hurt nothing. Yeah. So anyway, any other questions before we go? Any clarification? Anything you just like to get off your heart or chest or mind? Anything? Okay.
And it was from my spiritual vision. It was something that I prayed over myself and my whole family all the time. And I just feel like it's really good for anybody.
Mm-hmm.
Which was to be all that you could be, for doors to be open for you, for your calling to be revealed, God's calling to be revealed on your life, and for your gifts and talents to be revealed, which I think is really important when you're coming up with your vision. Maybe you don't know what your gifts and talents are, what your calling is on your life, but if you find that out, it can help you.
Yeah.
In other areas.
Mm-hmm. Not? Am I going to hold you longer than you need to be? Not a teacher.
So my college professors would say.
They what?
They would always say that.
Oh, not going to.
Yes, so they would say that to me because I was just such a good student and very humble.
Not true. Well, I'm not going to go far to find out my weaknesses. My wife will tell me.
Don't trust her.
I was just going to share that, like, for us that have children, I don't think you're going to have to go far to find out what your weaknesses are. Because when things are awry, your weaknesses are glaring. You know?
Mm-hmm.
So like,
Yeah.
being intentional about noticing those and working on them.
And I think,
Reflection.
yeah, 100%.
Positive or
Negative. Yep, 100% true. And I think that one key that I would say to that too, is going back to what I said, is when you walk in a room, people think something about you, right? Inevitably, they do. They just know you're going to be a certain way. And to a degree, right, it could be varying. To a degree, it could either be positive or negative. It could be varying. Some people's like, some people's like, oh, yay, right? Like there's that positive and negative. So it could be either way. But, what's funny? Right. Okay.
Talking about what people think when she walks into a room.
Oh. And yeah.
I'm here.
So, all right. Have a good night. Have any questions? Shoot me text, message, anything else.
Not a phone call.
Don't call me. Don't call me. Don't call me.